the event. Cities present one of the biggest challenges for architects, planners, developers, and urban designers. 35% of Indian population lives in urban areas, and by 2050, it is supposed to rise to 50%. The effects of this kind of influx are already visible and will become all the more challenging in the future. Surat is positioned uniquely in the context of growing cities. On one hand, it faces the identity. On the other hand, the city has stood up to these factors with a bold outlook and has taken several steps to address them. However, challenges remain, both known like climate changes, pollution, sustainability, and the unknown like future pandemics, cybersecurity, and such others. This panel discussion focuses on addressing these challenges that KhoobSurat, as in Surat, faces both in the past and the present, and will try to find a way forward. I'll introduce the panelists one by one. Mr. Siddharth Sakariya from Simpolo. After studying architecture, he went to the NID for his master's in ceramic and glass design. He started his journey with Simpolo Ceramics in 2018 as an industrial designer. He's completed his studies on creative and cultural businesses from IIM Ahmedabad last year. Now he serves as design strategist at Simpolo and looks after product development, branding, and merchandising and marketing. We already heard him in the first part of the event. Welcome, Mr. Siddharth Sakariya. Can we have a round of applause for the first panelist? Next, we have architect Azmi Wadia. Architect Azmi Wadia is currently a National Council member of the IIA, Indian Institute of Architects, and also the only woman to hold the designation of chairperson of the IIA Surat Center, and also the chairperson of the Institute of Indian Interior Designers, Surat Regional Chapter. Actively involved in academics for over 28 years, she is currently adjunct professor at the Faculty of Architecture, SCED Surat, and also a member of Board of Studies of a few universities in South Gujarat region. Working with her husband, architect Sarosh Wadia, in Surat since 1992, their firm, Azmi and Sarosh Wadia, has worked on a range of prestigious conservation and renovation projects apart from architecture and interior projects. Azmi has been a jury member at local and national level design competitions and also panelists on various platforms. The coordinating member on the editorial board of IID's national magazine, Insight, for over 5 years, Azmi has also contributed a chapter to the 750-page volume, A Zoroastrian Tapestry, which is a compilation of the work of 24 national and international scholars. Welcome, Azmi. Can we have a round of applause for architect Azmi Wadia? Then we have Mr. Niraj Viraddiya. Mr. Niraj Viraddiya is a real estate developer, co-founder of The Building Company. He believes in quality construction, quality, not quantity, sustainability, and always prefers making certified green buildings. He is very active on social media, and people know him as a motivational speaker, live coach, rather than a real estate developer. He loves to motivate and influence young souls for better fitness, better lifestyle, business, and success. Welcome, Mr. Niraj Viraddiya. Can we have a round of applause? Next, we have architect Kaushal Laheri. Established in Surat in the year 2011 by principal architects Kaushal Laheri, Dhaval Shah, Mayank Parekh, ADDA is a team of individuals with distinct ideologies coming together. Their strength lies in the ability to conceive master planning, architecture, interior, and landscape design with strong conceptual clarity. Kaushal Laheri is a practicing architect and a co-founder of ADDA Architects. Based in Surat, their practice is also in Mumbai. Kaushal has done his bachelor's in SCED Surat and master's from Ahmedabad in planning. He has a keen interest in designing a variety and scale of projects such as master planning, urban design, residential high-rises, commercial, industrial, institutional, hospitality, and such others. The team has recently started working on 100-meter plus towers, which has been recently authorized by the government. So, welcome, architect Kaushal Laheri. A round of applause. And last but not the least, we have architect Vishal Shah. Vishal Shah is an architect and urban practitioner in the field of design, sustainability, and academics. Creating a fine balance between practice and teaching, he has a strong inclination towards overall well-being of people, and he strongly believes in what is the city but the people. With 2 decades of experience and an array of projects handled, ranging from small interiors design installations to large urban design initiatives. A strong advocate of design for the masses and an ardent activist in his own right, Vishal Shah is instrumental in creating projects like urban design and placemaking for local government, lake and water conservation projects, biodiversity and urban parks, market redevelopment, master planning, as well as institutional and residential architecture. The latest being the project of Water Plaza as a part of the EU IURC program between Surat and Rotterdam, which was a part of the display at the India Pavilion at London Design Biennale 2021. Welcome, Architect Vishal Shah. Can we have a round of applause and a huge round of applause to all the panelists. And before we start, let me introduce the moderator for this particular event, Architect Deepak Sahajwani. Fourth Dimension Architects is an architectural firm based in Surat. Founded in 2002 by Principal Architect Deepak Sahajwani, the experienced team has worked primarily in the high-end residential sector for the last 20 years. Over the years, the firm has grown substantially with projects spanning cities across India, including Chennai, Coimbatore, Bhopal, Mumbai, and Lonavala. With over 2 decades in the field of architecture, Architect Deepak Sahajwani applies a wide range of principles to his work in order to create a sustainable and efficient infrastructure that is tasteful and timeless. In addition to this profession, Deepak has been involved with the professional community through True Professional Institutes, IID Surat, of which he has been the past chairman, and the IIA Surat Center, of which he is the current honorary secretary. He is an academic by heart and has been teaching and sharing his experiences with his students for the last 20 years. Welcome, Deepak. A huge round of applause for our moderator for the event, Deepak. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelkant. Oh, this is loud. So, the topic for discussion today is KhoobSurat, the challenges ahead. I think in the brief that Neelkant mentioned, we've already identified so many factors that a city is facing today, especially a city like Surat, which is growing at a very fast pace. And so I'll delve immediately into the issues that we are facing today, and I'd like to start with the lady on the stage, Azmi Wadia. Azmi, we've seen the city of Surat grow from what it was among the dirtiest cities in India to what it is today, among the cleanest cities. What has happened in the last 20 years is there's been a lot of economic development, there's been a lot of infrastructural development. But what has also happened is that somewhere, because of all this, development, I believe there is a loss of identity that has happened. I've been visiting so many cities. I was in Indore recently, I was in Hyderabad, and somehow you feel that, you know, it looks the same. You see the same flyovers, you see the same glass-clad buildings. What do you think identifies Surat uniquely? And is there a way to create a distinct identity for Surat in the near future?
Thank you, Deepak. And thank you for iDAC for having me as part of your panel here. So your question really, I think, Deepak, it would mean different things to different people. So in a sense, the perspective that one has would matter. Some people perhaps would identify Surat with food. Some would identify it with the industries that we have. So it's the diamond industry, the textile. We know that we are one of the largest manufacturers of man-made fiber, the largest polishing center in the world. And with all that economic development, we also have this huge influx of people coming in. So I think really, when you look at other cities, when you look at Baroda, you say, okay, you identify it with Lakshmi Vilas Palace or with the educational institutions. But Surat has always been a center for economics, so trade meaning, and through history, that's what Surat has been known for. So I think that the influx of people coming in, it being a potpourri really of different cultures, is what you can really identify Surat with today. Of course, there are the other things. There are the flyovers, and what people say, Surat no jaman and Kashi no maran. So Surat is known for a lot of things. But now coming to the challenges that really would be posed because of this potpourri of cultures, or the intense or the immense amount of migration that really comes into the city, is when we look at our city today, yes, we're very proud of it. We've come a long way since the time of the plague. When I married and moved to Surat in the early 1990s, one really worried about where one would even shop, because it was a very different scale. Today, Surat is doing well. I think we have amongst the most progressive urban authority also. So there are a lot of progressive development steps which are being taken place. But if we don't keep pace with the migration that is happening, then we are probably going to head for trouble. So along with this, the cultural mix that has really come into Surat, for now, yes, our infrastructures may be managing to handle it, the transportation system or the housing, the economic development. But if we don't really take care of the infrastructure as we go ahead, then I guess we would be heading for trouble.
Yeah, that's a very valid point that you make. And you mentioned the transport system that Surat has employed. And one of the recent inserts that is happening is the metro rail, which has come to Surat. Obviously, all the stakeholders, and especially planners like us, would be a little worried as to how this would impact us. And I would like to pose this question to Vishal Shah. Vishal, how do you see this development affecting us as a city and affecting the people? Apart from the benefit it offers, I'm sure there are a lot of other challenges that will accompany development of a metro project like this in the city of Surat. We've seen it happening in Delhi, where it has seamlessly merged with the city, and we are seeing it happening in Mumbai, which really is an eyesore. So how do you see this impacting our city and its people?
Thank you, Deepak. And it's a very pertinent question, because what happens is that these kind of large-scale development, mega developments that we see are coming as a part of a mandate from a national level, and then it kind of percolates to the state. And so there is a very strong political will and a mandate which is given to the cities also. And then the local government comes into picture, and then most of the time it's about a replication of a successful model somewhere else, may it be BRTS or may it be the metros, or similarly a lot of other projects that have happened over over the period of time. So that's where again, because we are talking about KhoobSurat, the identity question also comes into picture. Like, okay, now we all understand the benefits of metro. We all know that now when we are in 2035, as the revised development plan of Surat targets a population of 1 crore, and it's going to be a larger urban agglomeration, we will require urban transportation to be very efficient, and for that metro is one of the options that needs to be taken into consideration. But it also affects the overall identity of the place if it is done as a generic system-oriented thing only. Because in your opening remarks, you very explicitly mentioned about whether you go to Hyderabad or Bangalore or Lucknow, wherein all these things have already happened. Now the places are known from pillar numbers and not by Charminar or maybe other things. And everywhere now these pillar numbers are becoming the landmarks. So every place will have a pillar number 115, pillar number 125, so on and so forth. So we are in a way losing the identity. And if we specifically talk about Surat also, once there was this survey, I think couple of months back, and majority of people, especially from the old city, they were not happy with the kind of development that is going to come, because that's going to disrupt the way they have been looking at the history and culture of that particular place. Now, I think there are two parts to any development. One is the change that is to be brought in, and one is the continuity that needs to be there. So continuity is something which also needs to be taken into consideration, continuity of identity. And I think that's where sensible interventions are required for these kind of system-oriented projects also. So I look at metro from a very different perspective, and there has to be a lot of local flavor which needs to be added to all these things. Maybe it is from the design of the stations to the public spaces that we make around metro, or for that matter even, you know, maybe if needs to be taken completely underground also if needed, so that, you know, it's very simple that we don't want to see it, but it is there types. So, you know, these are the kind of radical decisions that needs to be taken, and not only kind of catering to some immediate solutions, but a long-term impact that it may have.
Right, and I think it's very well mentioned that a very easy thing to say would be that you do everything underground, but obviously economics are at play, political will is at play, and Niraj, I'd like to extend this question to you as a developer. We see all this infrastructural development happening, especially the things that both Azmi and Vishal talked about, a lot of migration happening, a lot of development being needed. A lot of this, integrated transportation happening, which, as he mentioned, looks very similar everywhere. How do you address this as a developer? How do you look at this challenge, and how do you address this in terms of the development that you do?
I think and I believe that behind every beautiful city, there are some people, and they are not just developers or architects or politicians. They are thinkers. So we need a team of thinkers. Government must consult a nice team who are good thinkers. There are so many people. I know many, architects or engineers, good politicians, good developers, and they can design a good city, because it's a matter of thinking. क्या होगा, how do you want, लोग कहाँ रहेंगे, लोग transport कैसे होगा, easy कैसे होगा, लोगों की life, because you have to put yourself, you have to see the situation from their point of view, because we are very wealthy, we have everything, but we have to look at the major chunk is working class, so we have to look at the city from their point of view. Second, एक ऐसी टीम होनी चाहिए जो लोगों को ट्रेन करे, बिकॉज आज शुरू किया ट्रेनिंग देना तो आफ्टर 1 decade 2 decade वो रिजल्ट दिखाए, बिकॉज एज एन आर्किटेक्ट दिस पीपल आर डिजाइनिंग अ गुड बिल्डिंग, एज अ डेवलपर वी आर क्रिएटिंग, वी आर मेकिंग गुड बिल्डिंग, एंड आफ्टर दैट लोग उसको बिगाड़ रहे हैं, बोलो जुबा केसरी, बेसिक ट्रेनिंग. तो वो एक चीज़ होनी चाहिए कि भी इतना अच्छा बिल्डिंग, इतना अच्छा सिटी. हैव यू सीन दिस ब्रिज? आई रिमेंबर जब केबल ब्रिज का इनॉग्रेशन हुआ, ओपनिंग, आफ्टर 3 hours इट वाज रेड. सो ये यहाँ से भी शुरू होना चाहिए. सिटी हम बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं, बट छोटी छोटी बातों पर पहले ध्यान देंगे तो कुछ बड़ा होगा, वरना कुछ भी बनाएंगे. सो एज अ डेवलपर आई बिलीव कि थोड़ा सा ट्रेनिंग होना चाहिए. आज एक हमेशा मैं जोक करता हूँ कि एलिवेटर्स में डुप्लेक्सिंग होता है, ऊपर जाना है ऊपर का बटन, नीचे जाना नीचे का, दोनों दबाते हैं. आई हैव एवरी टाइम जो भी करता है मैं उसको बोलता हूँ कि क्या कर रहे हो, ऐसे करते हैं. सो दीज आर स्मॉल थिंग. तो इफ़ वी स्टार्ट वर्किंग ऑन दैट स्मॉल थिंग, आगे जाके कुछ बड़ा होगा. सो आई बिलीव दैट.
Right. Thank you. Very valid point. So, Siddharth, I'd like to come to you. You're one of the input providers to people like Niraj who are building and developing these real estates, and you play a major role in the input industry. You are also an architect. You're also a designer. what role do you see in terms of your contribution to the city as a whole? How do we ensure that the materials that are being provided to builders and to architects like us, how do we ensure that it meets a certain criteria? Obviously, with people like you in this industry, things are going to happen. But how do you see this entire scenario?
Yeah, I think I understood your question. First of all, I'm overwhelmed to sharing the same stage with you guys who are far more experienced than I am. So thank you, iDAC, for the opportunity. Yes, when I entered this industry, I had very less knowledge about tiles, the building material tiles. And even today, if we see, there are a lot of designers and architects who have not understood the tiles, the capacity of tiles. They take it. This is one of the challenges, by the way. They take it as artificial material, but it is. In long term, it is going to be there. It will sustain. It will last long than the other natural materials. Of course, it is made from the natural materials only, but that is the one thing that people like us need to convey the importance of different types of tiles that are there in the market and which are going to come in the coming years. So let's say if we take example of the metro, if we use the full body tiles instead of any other natural materials, it is going to last far more years than any other material. And this thing has not got into many of the creators. So that is one of the challenges I feel is being in the industry. And to add on to that, Surat is one of the cities that, as you all said, that is one of the fastest growing cities. And somewhere we all are the reason for it. And not me, I have not worked in Surat, but you guys who have, whatever new product or new concept we build have been adapted very fast in Surat. And I'm saying the number games, they have sold the most in Surat, right, and South Gujarat, and rest other cities pick up very slowly. So it is very open to the new ideas and concept, and that is one of the reasons why it is one of the fastest growing city, I believe.
Fair point, fair point. So, Kaushal, I'd like to now address you. He mentioned about his building material, but there are so many other building materials that come into play when we design a building. And obviously, it leaves a big carbon footprint, right? It's a big challenge. And we as specifiers, sometimes, because of several factors, lack of time, lack of so many other things, we tend to be less sensitive as much as we should be, right? What happens when such a thing happens? What kind of impact does it create on a holistic level? And I'm not just talking about one building, because maybe we think ki itne mein to theek hai, it's just a minor thing. But when we collectively think of so many things happening due to these buildings, obviously all of us know that buildings are one of the highest consumers of energy today. So this challenge of buildings consuming so much of energy, generating so much of waste, where are we going?
હું ગુજરાતીમાં જ બોલીશ.
Absolutely.
Because I'm Gujarati. અત્યારના સમયમાં what we are seeing, mass housing. ધ સિટી નીડ મોર હાઉસિંગ, કારણ કે ઘણા બધા લોકો સુરતમાં માઇગ્રેશન થાય છે ઘણું બધું. મેજર હાઉસિંગ નીડ ઇઝ LIG, MIG. એટલે જેટલા લોકો વધારે આવે છે સુરતમાં એટલા ઘરની વધારે જરૂર પડે છે. અત્યારે ખાલી આપણે ઓવરઓલ હોલિસ્ટિકલી જોઈએ તો સોલિડ વેસ્ટ મેનેજમેન્ટને બધા લોકો એડ્રેસ કરતા હોય છે, પણ કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન સોલિડ વેસ્ટ પણ એટલું જ મેજર અત્યારે છે. સો નાઉ વી આર ડુઈંગ પ્રોજેક્ટ ઇન મુંબઈ, તો અમને ત્યાં જોઈએ તો ખબર પડે કે તમારે જે અત્યારે સુરતમાં તમે ઇઝીલી કંઈ પણ વસ્તુ ડમ્પ કરી દો છો કોઈ પણ જગ્યાએ, તો મુંબઈ હેઝ સર્ટન પ્રોટોકોલ્સ કે તમે કંઈ પણ જગ્યાએ કંઈ પણ વસ્તુ ના નાખી શકો. યુ સપોઝ ટુ હેવ ડમ્પ યાર્ડ ઇન યોર સાઇટ, એ તમારું ટાઈમ ટુ ટાઈમ ત્યાંથી કેટર કરે. યુ હેવ ટુ પે સોલિડ વેસ્ટ માટે. એટલે મને પર્સનલી એવું લાગે એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ કે આપણે કોઈ પણ મટીરિયલ યુઝ કરીએ એમાં, તો જે પણ મટીરિયલ યુઝ કર્યા પછી જે વધે છે કે આપણે તોડીએ છીએ, જે પણ થઈએ છે, એનું પ્રોપર રીયુઝ થવું જોઈએ એમાં. એટલે દેર આર સર્ટન કન્ટ્રીઝ, ઘણા બધા કન્ટ્રીઝ છે, તાઇવાન છે, ઓસ્ટ્રેલિયા છે, ચાઇના છે, દે આર એડેપ્ટ કરેલું છે એમણે અને કરે છે. આઈ ગો થ્રુ નંબર્સ સમવેર, તે મુંબઈ ઇઝ અરાઉન્ડ 2500 ટન જેટલું એવરેજ પર ડે કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન વેસ્ટ પ્રોડ્યુસ કરે છે. એન્ડ મુંબઈ ઇઝ નો સ્પેસ કે ભાઈ એક કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન વેસ્ટ ક્યાં નાખે. અને તમારે જો કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન વેસ્ટ ઓછું કરવું હશે તો યુ હેવ ટુ એડોપ્ટ ધ ન્યૂ ટેકનોલોજી. અત્યારે 2021માં એક લાઇટ હાઉસ પ્રોજેક્ટ કરીને એક ગવર્મેન્ટે ઇનિશિયેટિવ કરેલું હતું કે જેમાં 54 કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન ટેકનિક્સ ફોર લાઇટ હાઉસિંગ, એટલે પ્રધાનમંત્રી આવાસ યોજના માટે 54 ઇન્ડિયામાંથી કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન ટેકનિક્સને એ લોકોએ કીધેલું કે તમે સ્ટાર્ટઅપ્સ કે તમારે લઈને આવો. એટલે એમાંથી 6 શોર્ટ લિસ્ટ થઈ અને 6 શોર્ટ લિસ્ટ થયેલી કંપનીઝ રાજકોટ, હૈદરાબાદ, ચેન્નઈ, ઇન્દોર એવી અલગ અલગ જગ્યાએ અલગ અલગ ટેકનિક્સ યુઝ કરીને કઈ રીતે કાર્બન ફૂટપ્રિન્ટ લાર્જર લેવલ પર જોઈએ આપણે એ ઓછી કરી શકીએ. એટલે ટનલ સિસ્ટમ છે, કન્સ્ટ્રક્શન સિસ્ટમ છે, પ્રીકાસ્ટ પેનલ્સ છે. એટલે એનાથી આપણે એન્વાયરમેન્ટ ફ્રેન્ડલી, ધારો કે કાર્બન ફૂટપ્રિન્ટ ઓછી કરી શકીએ, વેસ્ટેજ ઓન સાઇટ ઓછું કરી શકીએ, આપણે વોટર મેનેજમેન્ટ, પાણી ઓછું વાપરી શકીએ. તો આઈ થિંક આ ગ્લોબલ લેવલે વિચારીએ આપણે તો આ ટેકનિક્સ એક્સેપ્ટ કરશું આપણે જેટલા જલ્દી માસ હાઉસિંગ માટે, એટલા જ જલ્દી આપણે ટુવર્ડ્સ ગ્રીન બિલ્ડિંગ્સ આપણે આગળ જઈ શકશું.
A very valid point. And I think Azmi would like to add a point to this.
Yeah, adding to what Kaushal was saying, the building industry does generate an immense amount of waste. And there was this initiative that was taken by IIID Bangalore chapter at one point, I remember, where they collected waste from all the members' sites, you know, so all the sites that members really had projects going on, they collected all the leftover material or the waste material, and they created a bank of sorts for that material, which was then used for low-income housing, schools, you know, toilets, things like that. So I think if developers, even in Surat, you take up an initiative like that, it would really make a vast difference.
Very important point that you make. And I believe institutes like IA and IID can play a huge part in this kind of an initiative. Because both of you have mentioned so many things that are related to the construction technology. We're talking about waste, we're talking about sustainability. Niraj, I'd like to extend this question to you. You've been one of the proponents of green buildings in Surat. I believe every building that you make, you ensure that it is accredited. So somehow this trend has not reached a level where it should have reached. So the acceptability level has been low in terms of getting ratings for buildings. We understand that buildings are now have become very complex structures, and this kind of a rating system should help us, but somehow that has not happened. Why do you think that has happened, and is there a way forward for this?
Proper branding. If you ask boy that which phone you want to buy, iPhone or OnePlus, iPhone, expensive, but iPhone. So once again, I am telling you same thing, that we need a team who can teach people, who can train people that these green buildings are better. They are expensive, little bit, but better. They are saving a lot of energy, water. Your electricity bill will be lesser than a conventional building. Everything. At that time, everyone will initiate for good ratings, or gold or platinum, whatever. But as of now, as a developer, if I tell you, I made that my commercial building we delivered in 2017, which was the first certified green building in tenant occupied category. Why we made? If I, my answer is very funny. कि हमको खुजली थी. Because nobody is going to pay us extra. We have made this green building. This is conventional building. We will sell this one for 5,000 rupees per square. This is 6,000. No, I don't care. People, common answer is I don't care. तो आप green बनाओ, red बनाओ, तो यहाँ पे वो awareness नहीं है. That is the reason. और nowadays, mostly everyone is making green building because we are getting some discount in FSI, paid FSI. So now everyone is making, and we made one very detailed calculation. If we are making certified green building, तो कितना discount मिलता है? So we are able to save 2.5 lakh rupees overall, सब मिला के. तो फायदा तो है. तो we are making from last 12 years, but now it is the new norms are थोड़ा से easy बना दिया है उसको green building बनाने के लिए. So now everyone is making, everybody is applying for certificate and all that. But still, people don't know about it. And in my previous project, which is also a certified green building, I remember मैंने कुछ 30 presentations दिए होंगे. मतलब कभी कभी होता है ना कि संडे हम लोग साइट पे जाते हैं एंड बहुत ज़्यादा रश है, देयर आर फ्यू मोर फैमिलीज, मैं भी पहुंच जाता हूँ एज अ सेल्समैन. आई डोंट टेल देम कि मैं एम अ बिल्डर, जस्ट लाइक अ सेल्समैन. मैं सबको समझाता हूँ कि दिस इज़ द प्रोजेक्ट एंड दिस इज़ द सर्टिफाइड ग्रीन बिल्डिंग प्रोजेक्ट. अच्छा तो मैं लीलो कलर मारो ना बिल्डिंग में, लाइक नो પછી એમ થાય કે યાર ઓકે ફॉरगेट दैट. What should I tell them? But this is the reason. अगर उनको मालूम है कि ये आईफोन है, they will buy it. इसका ब्रांडिंग होना चाहिए. So the branding is what होना चाहिए. Important. And दूसरा, if I talk about सूरत, तो सूरत में डेवलपर का मार्जिन नहीं है. मतलब if you compare other cities, तो सूरत में there is a case study है, ये होना चाहिए. यहाँ पे नहीं है. रीज़न भी ये है कि यहाँ पे लैंड बहुत महंगा हो गया है और वो भी हमारे जैसा लोगों ने ही किया है, तो गलती हमारी है. लैंड इज़ वेरी एक्सपेंसिव एंड उसके बिकॉज ऑफ दैट उसकी जो हमारी आर्किटेक्ट्स की जो क्रिएटिविटी है वो मर गई है. बिकॉज हम लोग आर्किटेक्ट को फ्रीडम देंगे तो फिर हमारा क्या होगा. सो वहाँ बैलेंस करने में वी डोंट हैव सच क्रिएटिव बिल्डिंग्स एंड द प्रॉफिट मार्जिन इज, हर जगह पे वो मारा मारी होती है. ग्रीन बिल्डिंग बनाना नहीं बनाना है, छोड़ो यार, इतना मिल रहा है उसमें भी कम करोगे तो क्या क्या होगा. So these are all reasons, and there are very few developers who are like working like a corporate. यहाँ पे ये funding, project, costing, calculation, ये सब detail में नहीं होता है. There are very few groups who are doing in detail construction cost. यहाँ पे construction cost पूछी जाती है, निकाली नहीं जाती. आपका कितना हुआ था? 1600 रुपये. हाँ, एक काम करो ना, 1700 कर लो ना. तो उसको बोलना पड़ता है कि मेरा 1600 है. एट दैट टाइम द फ्यूल कॉस्ट वाज 75 रुपीज़, अभी 95 है. तो कैलकुलेट दैट, सब कुछ महंगा हो गया. सो ये कोई गिनता नहीं है डिटेल में. और फिर एट वन पॉइंट ओ शिट, अभी कुछ बच नहीं रहा है. सो दिस इज़ द रीज़न. तो यहाँ पे ऐसी देयर इज सेइंग ना, भूखे पेट भजन ना हुए. तो ये जो है ग्रीन बिल्डिंग करना, ये करना, वो करना, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, ये सब भजन है. अब पेट ही भूखा है तो वो सब कैसा होगा. दैट इज़ द प्रॉब्लम.
Fair point, I think. So what you're saying is that there is this branding issue that needs to be addressed. I think Vishal has a very different take on this. Vishal, you've been working on a very different, a parallel to this sustainability core issues that we face today. What is your take on how do we, obviously the goal is the same. We need to, as a city, we know with so much construction happening, the issues of heat island, then there are issues of wastage that Kaushal has talked about. There are issues of mass housing that needs to be addressed because of the migration issues that Azmi has talked about. What is I know you have this very holistic view of development. How do you see this as a challenge, and what are the resolutions that you think can be realistically achieved?
No, in fact, I absolutely agree with what Niraj is talking about. Like, the statement ke bhuka pete bhajan nahi thai is right. So I think all these things we'll have to bring in mainstream and very much like, we also have to look at like what you also mentioned from a holistic perspective. Like when we talk about green building or any other sort of ratings like Griha or all the other things, these are sort of mechanisms that are provided in a way so that people get a certain amount of, a certain format to put their things to come at the same platform. So that's the idea, that's where it comes from, again, from a larger level as a policy decision also. But at the same time, there are certain inherent sustainable practices which we as in Indians have been doing from traditional Indian architecture times or whatever we have to say. So I think we have to trade on both the things. We don't have to lose our indigenous way of looking at buildings, of the whole recycling thing, of the whole use of wastage and other things. And time and again it has been talked about that we as Indians have always been very much sustainable in terms of consuming resources. So even at the world level right now also, if you'll see, though we are one of the fastest developing economies and with the, now I think #1 population in a very short period of time, but still the resource consumption is not the way the Western world is doing. Not an excuse to consume more.
But we are going that way, right?
But I think more and more awareness in all the processes, whether it is following a set format or being true to your own work, is going to be very, very, very important for this. Because ultimately when we look at all these things, and in a larger umbrella, again, they all come as a part of the climate change initiatives that are being taken. Surat is one of the torchbearers in India to implement all these changes to a greater level. So as Surtis, I think we have to, in our own way, contribute to this entire thing. Recently, we have been reading in newspaper that we were the only Indian city that were invited to this whole summit in Singapore, which talks about that we are going to kind of face certain very harsh climatic events, and we are one city which are comparatively well prepared for all these things. So somewhere or the other where we all will have some or the other role to play as architects, as designers, as people who are going to kind of consume as much lesser resources or upcycle and recycle them through our innovative approaches. So I look at it from this holistic perspective. Rating comes, it's a byproduct, it's by the way, can be used for branding, can be used for incentives, and there is always a win-win in that. So
Yeah,
not an issue.
Agree, I totally agree. Because we are running short of time, before I ask them the last question, I'd quickly like to invite a few questions from the audience if they have for the panel members. Yes, I see Sarosh's hand raised. Thank you, Sarosh. You're most welcome to ask a question. Could we have a mic for Sarosh, please?
Very well put by Vishal. And actually, I was going to ask this as a question, what you explained just now, that as the metro rail or the BRTS was imposed upon Surat, let me tell you a story which is about 10 years old. When the first JNURM funds were released, Surat was a mid-city. It was neither in the A category nor in the B category, but it was nearing A category. So it got the maximum funds where it had to pay only 1/4 the amount of the project, and 3/4 was coming from the government. And that is how Surat leapfrogged. You know, nowadays you don't multiply or you don't add to your resources. You have to leapfrog. Otherwise, you're behind the race. That is what most of you are saying also. So I think this green buildings and sustainability, like Vishal put very nicely, if it is continued from our own experience, what Nirav is saying about people not connecting with it. People are not connecting with it because it's something which is imposed on them. So they'll start connecting. Our forefathers used to conserve water this way. We are doing the recharge system this way. Or we are harvesting water this way. Because all of Surat used to harvest water. What we are saying in green buildings today, we used to actually store water in the tanks below the house. Why have we forgotten that? Because of some disease, some Britisher told us, "Nahi, this is polluted water." There was a whole community of well cleaners or taka saaf karwawada. And from different filters that water used to be it was as fresh a water. And my grandfather told me that if you have chai from that water, you would forget the chai made for today's water. You know?
Sir, is there a question there?
So the question is that in this leapfrogging, in the things which are imposed upon you, green building is one such imposition. Do you think we have lost the connect?
Who do you want to answer? Who would you like to answer? Azmi? I think Azmi would be the best person to answer this.
That will be great because she rarely answers my questions.
Do you think it'll make a difference if I answer you from the stage?
No,
Or rather at home? Okay, so yes, I quite agree with what you're saying, Sarosh, that we have lost the connect with what our traditional systems were. Rainwater harvesting was one of them. In terms of our architecture also, we have forgotten about the passive ways in which we can conserve energy. Small traditional interventions that we had. So yes, most definitely, if one does really look back at what our traditional value systems were, I think there's a lot that we can really learn from them, that we can take from them. And Surat has now also started in terms of, the corporation has also kind of imposed that we have these rainwater or recharge bores. It has also given concession for solar energy. So I think things are trickling down in that sense. But yes, we have lost a lot of the traditional knowledge to maybe to West. We always keep saying that it's the West that is doing this, but there's a lot of good also that comes from there. It's up to us really to sift out what is appropriate for us and then educate. Of course, to educate a client is a little difficult, but I think we need to first educate ourselves as a community, as a fraternity, academics, and then probably it would filter more into the laity.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point that you make, that educating not just students, but educating your clients, educating the citizens of the city, ultimately will make the final impact. How we use a city is ultimately going to be decided by the citizens, by the people of the city, and we as professionals, we need to educate them how to use the infrastructure, how to appreciate it, how to give back to the city is what is required. The citizens of Surat are already have this mentality of giving back, but I'm sure that with this flux of things changing at such a rapid pace, I think we need to up our game and extend this sense of imparting this awareness to our citizens all the more. I'll just finish off this session. I think I see time up on that small screen here. So I'll just finish off by asking a very pertinent question, very small. You need to answer it only maybe 1 or 2 sentences. And this is something because we've now discussed the issues that a city like Surat is facing. We've also talked about some of the solutions that we think will work. But ultimately, there is a vision that all of us have. So I'd like to start with Kaushal. 10 years down the line, 2032 or 2030, where do you see Surat? And or how do you see Surat should be in the next 8 years? What is it that you would like Surat to be in the next 8 years?
The government has already 2035 no roadmap Surat ne apelo છે. Surat was earlier 326 square kilometer, now is 1527 square kilometer. તો સુરત અત્યારે જે મને દેખાય છે મારી નજરે જોઈએ તો એવું લાગે છે કે સુરત has grown up like BRTS is good doing, metro is coming up. એટલે ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર લેવલે આપણે સુરતને જોઈએ તો સુરત is doing good અને I think 2035 માં મોદી સાહેબે કીધેલું સુરતને સિંગાપુર બનાવવું છે. કદાચ સિંગાપુર ના બને પણ એના નજીકનું તો બની જાય એવું આપણે વિચારીએ.
Fair enough. Vishal.
I want to look at it from a very different perspective that, okay, all said and done, the numbers, area, everything, that's one part of it, which is very objective, but cities have to be inclusive. And I think that's one area that even the Indian government have started working onto it. So inclusive for all age group, all income group, because ultimately cities are for everyone. They are not for a particular economic group or a particular social group or a particular age group. So I think more and more inclusive cities is what I would like to see. Surat again to become one of the torchbearer of that. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Something that I am looking forward to, well, there are 2 things. One is in terms of the infrastructure, or we've all spoken a little bit about the metro coming in, or BRTS, housing. So all of these really need to be brought together under a common vision or a common umbrella. It's not that they don't need to be independent one of the other. They need to really integrate themselves. So if you're providing housing at a particular location, it's meaningless if it's not going to be complemented with the correct kind of transport system, which is going to take a person from point A to point B, or from his home to his workplace. So instead of having scattered kind of impositions of different sorts, it would be really good if there was a common vision which would bring all of these systems, together. So that interconnectedness or integration really needs to be there. And the second most important thing that I would really like to see in Surat is I would like to see the water back in our river. It's something which is missing. It's something that, when I moved to Surat, I moved from Ahmedabad, where I was studying. And at that point, we could walk across the river, the bed of the river in Ahmedabad from one bank to the other bank. And it was such a pleasure to really see the Tapti full, it used to be brimming. And that water is gone completely, and it's brought about such a change in our microclimate also. So I really look forward to this, the river being rejuvenated, and I hope that by 2030, 35, it's there for our children and grandchildren.
Traffic jam. Narrow streets, narrow roads and tall buildings, and we have a big problem of traffic jam, parking everywhere. And down the line, 10 years, problem is going to be worse. We need to develop a parking system over here. Have you ever visited Paris? Paris has around 5,500 streets, and in every street you will see car parking one side, and every street is one way mostly, so they have parking everywhere. And in Surat, you will see so many no parking board. तो parking कहाँ करेंगे? We need that thing. And if you see upcoming town planning scheme, roads are really very narrow. पता नहीं क्यों. My brother always make joke कि यहाँ पे सूखा पड़ता था. तो जहाँ सूखा पड़ता है वहाँ पे बड़ी सोच नहीं होती, छोटी सोच. रोड भी छोटे छोटे रोड है. तो अब देखते कि यहाँ पे 15 से 16 फ्लोर की बिल्डिंग बन रही है, इतने छोटे रोड है, क्या कैसे एडजस्ट कैसे होगा? सो मुझे थोड़ा सा डर लग रहा है कि भाई फ्यूचर में ट्रैफिक जैम तो होने ही वाला है. दैट्स माय फियर.
I'll keep it very short because I have known Surat only for 3 days. But down the line 10 years, I would want more people from the architects community to engage in product development, because it is very feasible and it's very viable also to have your say in a product development for certain projects. Not only tiles, because I am with Simpolo, I would say tiles, but any of the building material, engage as much as you can to develop your own product and have it in your project.
Thank you. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Niraj. Thank you, Azmi, Vishal, Kaushal. Thank you so much for such an engaging conversation. I'm sure everybody enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you, iDAC, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists and the moderator. May I request Architect Jayesh Haryani and Architect Sanjay Patil to please come on the stage and felicitate our panelist and the moderator. Please make some noise. That's better. Yeah, the moderator. Thank you so much, all the moderators. Thanks for doing the honor.